Welcome back to the last, final episode of Tying That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham. This is my good friend, Franck. Also my good friends, Dominque Tipper and Steven Strait.
Hi.
Hello.
I didn't realize this was the last one. Like, ever? We're never doing this again?
Well, when this airs, this will be the last one.
Ever?
Well, I don't know.
Ever?
Do you guys want to have a conversation?
I feel like you just fired me.
It's okay.
It's like, all right.
It's okay.
Just make an exact
leave.
decision.
I mean, there's no more Expanse to talk about after this.
Just dropping the hammer right off the top. Wow.
I mean, this is the last one with us. What are we talking about today?
Well, I guess it'd be 606, right?
606.
Finale.
And look, I want to start this off by talking about a conversation that Steven and I had. I think it was season 3, and we were sitting.
Where was I?
We were in Atlanta. Oh, yeah. You were probably in London
Why
town.
wasn't I in this conversation?
But Steven and I were sitting down and we were talking about the things that were really important to us, that really, the things that we watched when we were growing up that really meant something to us, that had an impact, that just extremely important to our lives. And we, our only goal in getting into this is that one day we would hope to be a part of something like that was important to people, that we could share. And now that you've seen this last season and you saw the last episode, do you think we accomplished that?
I do. I'm so proud of it. And I remember that conversation really well. And as an actor, as an artist of any kind, you just want to be a part of something that feels important. And we did that. I remember too. I was like,
You're welcome, buddy.
Yeah. By the way, thank you. Yes, thank you. I mean, that was part of that conversation. It was like, well, we need to finish.
Mm-hmm.
We need to finish. We need to get the 6. We need to finish, and we did. We have a complete story, beginning, middle, and end.
It is so wild to
It's
think that
crazy.
we began this, obviously a lot earlier for you, but TV show in 2014. And it's 2021.
Wow.
And we created this thing that is just like, I mean, it's kind of its own like thing now, especially after like it getting cancelled and the fans saving it. It just, do you remember we always used to laugh and be like, when we were on Sci-Fi, be like, our tens and tens of fans. We always felt like we were just making this thing for us and like nobody was watching it, which I don't really think many people were. And this is not to like, and we know we had diehard fans from the beginning. I'm not taking that away.
I mean, there's a reason that we stayed on.
Yeah.
We used to go out tens and I used to go hundreds of fans.
We're in hundreds, God damn it.
Well, I mean, what's funny about that, us being on, Amazon for the last 3 years, is we didn't get great numbers when we were broadcast, but we were always in the top 10 on every place you could buy a show. So when the show was out, we weren't doing great on Sci-Fi, but we'd be top 10 on Apple TV and top 10 on Amazon, and like
iTunes.
Tons of people were buying the show and watching it. Right. They just weren't watching it with commercials.
Right.
So once we went over to Amazon, it's like, that's the natural fit now. This is where we were always supposed to be.
Yes.
My favorite thing is when we first aired on Amazon that you would run into people out in town, and there's a few people that came up and go, "We love your new show." New show? We've been doing this for 5 years, almost 6 years. But I still remember when I first met you, Dominque, and we were at a fitting, and it was the day before we were going to shoot our very first scene. And I remember just walking around like, this is the incredible energy and confidence that you had.
And I was like, hi, I'm your Naomi.
You were a professional dancer and you come from this background, and this was your first like real big show and thing to be a part of, and you had so much command at such an early time in your career. I'm curious about, and I want to, one of the things I want to talk to you is I'm curious about your personal journey through the Expanse, but also your character's journey. How is Naomi different from when she first started till now, and how is Dominque different?
I mean, I am so different. I always feel like I grew up on the Expanse in terms of my acting career, because I was completely inexperienced. I'd done a few bit parts, one kind of lead role in an ensemble piece, and then I booked this and I was just like, shit. Because I was surrounded by people who've been working their whole lives. You just come off something huge. Sure, I was just like, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be here. But in true Dominique fashion, I was like, I'm going to give it my all. But I was crapping myself. I just, like, severe imposter syndrome. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, you know? And I just kind of didn't really understand why everybody had, like, taken this chance on me. There was a lot of that. And I don't know. I just kind of threw myself into it, as I do everything. And I have always, in anything I've done, pretty much learnt on the job. Like, even with dancing, I never went to dancing school. I went to a version of acting school, but it was like evening classes. So I've always kind of like thrown myself in the deep end and swam out. And the Expanse was no different. And I learned so much. I learned a lot by fire, I think. You know, there's a lot of stuff I didn't really know how to conduct myself on a set, or the etiquettes, how to speak to actors, how to speak to kind of anyone in terms of like dancing was a whole different kettle of fish. And I danced with my best friends for 12 years. So there was a shorthand and a language that we could use. There was a bluntness I could have that was comfortable, that when I got into this space, I was a bit like,
we never noticed that. Like, you know, the kind of the confidence that you projected, and then you walked in the room and
I could just, you know, I'm like an energy sponge anyway. So I just think I was bombarded with like all these kind of people and situations that I was just like, ugh. But, you know, in saying that, what I didn't know at that time is like the team that we have. I mean, to get to where I've got to now and be so cushioned, like by you guys, by Narain is like the best fucking showrunner.
I mean, he's okay.
I knew you were going to say that. But there was a kindness and a support and a fairness. Like, I was allowed to make mistakes. They didn't mean I was kind of left out the conversations going forward. And Narain was always so fair with me. I mean, we had our ups and downs, like we all did making this show. But honestly, I'm just like so grateful that I got to kind of chisel my craft in this environment, because it was like doing it wrapped in cotton wool. I think now I know the industry more, and I'm like, there is not many shows that operate this way, or have a rehearsal every Sunday, or, you know, I walk in and Steven was the way he was in the chemistry read. Like, he was so kind. I remember him being like, you got this. And I was just like, I ain't got nothing, but I appreciate this. You know, it's just all like love, basically. And for all the ups and downs we've had, I just, now at this point, I'm like, shit, there is nothing more special than this experience I've had. So I was a producer on the show last year, you know, it's a whole, I've gone from being like what I would say was a novice.
What a journey,
to,
you know, like what you've learned,
yeah.
and how
and I know so much now about the way it all works, who I want to be in the mix of that, and who I am as a woman on a set, who I am as a black woman on a set, what I can contribute, who I am as an actress. Like, season 5 was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life. I didn't know I had the stamina to do those episodes in the way that I did, and maintain it and be proud of it afterwards. So it's just like, I'm a completely different person. And I think Naomi is too.
Yeah, tell us a little about
in a
that.
different way, you know. We was talking about this yesterday when we done press, and I was just like, you know, there's I don't know if you find this, but there's a point with your character. I mean, it's probably different for Amos, but I was really on the same page with her for a long time. And then she made some choices that I was just like, ooh, what the fuck? And, you know, going into that space as an actor and being like, it has to come from a place of empathy, and you relate in the ways that you can and try and understand why your character's making the decisions that they are. That journey has been, now we're on season 6, has been more of the journey than when I was kind of aligned with her, I feel. And so, I don't know, I got to develop a very different part of myself through her decisions and choices that I am just like, I would never have done those things, or had that courage, or had that conviction in that choice that I made, or left my son for that. I don't know if I would have had the strength to walk away from that, to preserve myself. Like, these things that I'm just like, probably would have been a bit judgy about, like, especially in terms of her, the way that she's conducted her motherhood in the way that she had to. I think I maybe would have had different opinion about that than I do now. So there's so many things that I'm just like, wow, especially getting to season 5, what this woman went through, and her kind of like, there's not giving up, and then there's Naomi. And I just, through pushing through as an actress, through what we did in season 5 and what she went through in season 5 was just like, I don't think I can quite quantify the effect it's had on me or what that means about her, but it just feels huge. And I love where she gets to by the end of episode 6 with Holden, and just her place in the world and the choices she's had to make and why. I'm very proud of her. It's a messy journey. Do you know what I mean?
Daniel always describes Naomi as the animal that got caught in a trap and had to chew off one of its legs to get away. And you get away and you bear the scars of that for the rest of your life. You're never the same. But she got away, and she has a life after that, and she's has a much more complete life, I think, once she gets away. But the scar of that encounter, the scar of getting out of that trap, that'll always be there. It's never going away.
And then the courage and perseverance it takes to create a life beyond that kind of trauma. Not everybody succeeds in that. And, it's where some people, addictions are born from, or just deep heartbreak. That saying that people die from heartbreak is not a joke. It's true. So it's like, how, when you're in such grief and have experienced such trauma, do you carry on and make a life that you're proud of and happy? It takes some of us years to get to that point after trauma. So that is the thing that I just admire about her so much, is to be so settled in who she is and what she's done and why she done it, that she can carry on with her head held high. And I think, yes, she will always have scars and probably feel lots of regret and doubt at moments, but overall she pushes through. And I think that's amazing trait to have and portray a character that has that trait.
Steven, what about you? I mean, this has been almost 8 years now, and I think that in some ways your leadership role on the show kind of mimics your leadership role on the as Captain Holden in the thing. And so from a personal level and from your character's perspective, how have you grown and changed throughout the Expanse?
Kind of like what Don was saying. I mean, the journey was so vast for Holden, and for me too. I learned so much these last 7 years. But for Holden, I had an overarching goal from the beginning, because the hope was always that we would be able to get to the end, and there was a chance to show a really well plotted and meticulous arc of the natural evolution, a realistic evolution of a leader, and this kind of messy strength through humility that Holden has. And he kind of, I loved it from the books, is that he learns through his failures, and he learns through his mistakes and his stumbles, and it's not something that's just innately in there that like you often see in hero journeys where they're just that guy from the beginning. It's like Holden has a moral and ethical core that's always there, and then he builds on that through these very, very difficult circumstances. And what was amazing was to be able to show his growth and a very different kind of masculinity that's based and centered around empathy and centered around sensitivity and a guy who brings people together. And then it culminates in the end of 6 with this very different kind of courage. He knows who he is. He knows his limitations. He does the right thing by stepping away and not taking charge. And I've always loved that about Holden, because it was just an amazing opportunity to just show a really unique kind of figure that just isn't often seen in science fiction or in adventure stuff or whatever, or just in terms of character development. It's just in doing this over 20 years, I can't remember a version of that I had read before, you know. And it was a really cool opportunity for me as an actor because it's a very messy path. Holden has a lot of really hard moments. It's not easy for him, and he's a worrier, and he you know, by the end, it's like before we started the 6th season, like I dropped a bunch of weight to make him kind of look stressed and gaunt, and I wanted him to feel like every one of these circumstances and moments over the last 6 seasons has just weighed terribly on this man. And ironically, kind of by accepting his own limitations and finding, you know, it's that thing where like life just burns away the bullshit and you're just left with what you are. And he knows who he is, and he's ironically capable of delivering on what the system needs him to be because of the love of his family. And you know, that for me, that's what the 6th season really represents, is just amazing meditation on family and how that reflects in each person and even in the macro sense in the story. So it was amazing. I mean, like it's been the greatest joy of my professional life to be able to show this completion of this arc. And then, you know, personally, I just am so grateful that I was trusted in a place of leadership. You know, I just loved this story, and I just wanted it to be the best it could be, and whatever I could do to help make that a reality, I wanted to be able to do. You know, when we started, I was 28, but I had worked since I was a teenager, and I grew up on big sets, and I just wanted to throw my hand in because I always felt the possibility was there for something great, and I just wanted to be able to facilitate that, whatever that meant. So I did, you know, and you know, whether it was, you know, rehearsing or you know, kind of lending my opinion or a hand or whatever, you know, it takes a village to make this stuff, and I just wanted to help. So, you know, as that kind of grew over the years, I learned that I really loved that, and my pride in being able to, you know, contribute to that kind of culture really changed me. I mean, like I didn't really know I had that. That makes me like fucking emotional to even talk about. But
that's what we want, man. It's the last one. We want to feel it.
Yeah. But it's that was really cool.
We get asked a lot, you know, Noreen and Daniel and I, we get asked a lot, you know, who's your favorite character to write for? And, you know, it's usually whichever one I'm writing for right now. But yesterday somebody asked, who's the hardest character to write for? And we all agreed by far the hardest character to write for is Holden. Because Holden's arc is so long and it's so gradual to get him from where he starts to where he ends up. And you understood that right from the beginning and didn't try to force it to be something it wasn't ready to be yet and let it slowly happen. And on top of that, Holden is a very non-traditional hero because the American ideal Western hero is the lone gunman, rides into town, shoots all the bad guys, and rides off. And Holden's not that guy. Holden wins by building consensus. He wins by building communities. He wins by having opportunities to take power and then choosing not to, and letting somebody else take power. And that's very much not sort of the American hero idea. And so you have to like tease the audience over there. You have to pull them with you, because if you start with that, nobody gets it. So you got to kind of allow, as Holden develops into what he is, we're also kind of developing the audience to understand that kind of hero, so that they can, you know, wind up in the same place he's at the end.
Because the apex of that is the decision he makes in the last episode to step down and give that power to Drummer, because he knows that is the only way to maintain balance.
Right. And which, by the way, the most Holden decision in 6 seasons is that one.
Yeah.
Where they're like, you can be king of the world. And he's like, or Drummer could. Maybe I could just go back on my ship. Yeah.
I remember Daniel saying to me, he had this great line that just kind of summed it up for me in such a beautiful way. He was like, Holden starts the series rejecting a job out of immaturity and ends the series rejecting it out of maturity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another decision that I want to know, when you first read it as an actor, when Holden decided to discharge the bomb. Because as a viewer and as a fan, that really got me. What was your thought process when you read that as an actor? Like,
you know, I was looking forward to it because I knew it was going to be really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very tricky beat, and I knew that when it happened, you know, and that's that thing that we do when you're an actor, where it's like you just got to. You know that someone's going to be throwing their remote at the television. Like,
I was like, God damn it, Holden, shit.
But you know, it was exciting to me because it is a very Holden decision, and like we're talking about like how your values kind of diverge from the characters, and you know, I don't know if mine would actually, and in that way, I've over the years there's been very few, if any, moments where Holden has made decisions where I go, I don't understand it. Like I get it. Like I think in that way, me and Holden are similar in a lot of our values.
I mean, you and I have had a couple conversations where you asked me to explain something.
Yes, right.
Yeah, where you'd say, why is he going here? Why is he saying this or making this choice? And after those conversations, every time you would go, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
For sure.
I'm on board.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, finding those justifications to be able to kind of go like, what was your intention with making this in the overall story structure so that I'm playing it right? But, you know, for that moment, he just can't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It also feels like to me the first time in the show where humans actually learn from their mistakes of the past.
Yeah.
And a correction is made that has like historically never really happened, where like the colonizers go, do you know what, you should have rule over your land, you know? And
Sure.
I think Holden making that choice is like, it's so satisfying for me as a person of color. I'm watching it like, well, this has like hardly ever happened in history, and it is the right way to do things. It's right that everybody has a piece of the pie, and it is more likely to create a solar system that everyone can live in and function in harmoniously, but we never do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like, it is so wild that it happens because we're so used to the opposite,
Yeah.
you know, but in what you're saying about, I could imagine Steven doing that as well. Actually,
Yeah.
You know?
And that led to a great moment with Naomi when he comes and tells you, and you're like, hold on, motherfucker. You don't make decisions for me.
When
No.
he
When he disarmed the torpedo and he came, he's like, oh, by the way, I didn't, you know, and he made that big
Do
decision.
you know what?
for
I also love that moment because it's so like her reaction to it is so like what you would not expect.
Yeah.
Is her going, no, we have to kill him
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
And because I am understanding the solar system wide ramifications and I can't live with that guilt actually. So you are coming to me with this guilt. And I'm like, well, what about the guilt of the billions?
And what was communicated, like when I saw that scene, what I saw is Naomi has done the hard work.
Yes.
She
Yeah.
has made the conclusion.
She's
She
already
knows
mourned
what-
him.
Yeah.
She's mourned
the
Philip.
griefs
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yep.
mourned it. She's there. So when he comes and says this, she's like, listen.
I think it's a coming to terms because I don't think she's entirely done the work actually. I think she's in the process of it because someone asked me this yesterday, like, is this Naomi healing? And I was like, I think she's on her way. I think it's clear in the series that she's not okay. But at that point with being brought to her, she's like, no. You know, sometimes when like you haven't fully thought through a thing and then someone comes to you and you have to act, and in actual fact it solidifies what you're feeling. That's what I think that moment is for her, and for how she, again, I feel like Naomi's very good at teaching people how to treat her. And articulating why she wants to be treated that way and the work that she's done to get to this point, and this is why you need to treat me that way. So for me it's like peak Naomi, but it's also spurs on the rest of her healing because she is confirming out loud what she is coming to terms with internally. The work that we don't see, we don't know she's doing as an audience, she then voices it, and I think that leads to the, you know, the decision she makes to press that button, which is just like,
which is not without cost.
Yeah.
absolutely
No,
not,
it's
but
not
she's
without
willing
cost.
to take
But
the
she
cost
she takes it. Yeah.
and move forward.
And you'll have that powerful scene where Holden is holding you, and
Yeah.
you're really.
It's
losing
beautifully
that.
edited.
Oh.
It is.
Yeah, the Narain working with the editors, that whole sequence is cut together.
Yeah, because we had a lot of convos about that.
Yeah,
And there was a moment
so
where I was
powerful.
like, I don't think she should be in his arms. Why is she running to him after she's done that? Like, I want her on her own. And you was even like, yeah, I think she should be on her own. And Breck was just like, you know, our normal creative back and forth that we have with him. He was like, you need to do this scene. I think it's going to be lovely. And I was just like,
Well, the way it's shot, you look like you're trying to get away, and he's
that's
hanging on.
I mean, we talked
Yeah,
about this
yeah.
so much, and I think it's the only way we felt it
Yeah.
was comfortable. Like,
It works.
but the bit before was something I kind of just improvised a little bit. The scream that wasn't really on the page.
Oh yeah.
It's how I felt in the moment. So I'm glad they're both in there actually.
Yeah.
Because I think it really tells the story of the moment.
I will say that, so Holden's decision with the bomb, that moment spurs a bunch of the reflection, everybody, introspection. It's a nice triggering moment.
I was so it was the moment I prepared for the most this year. Like I knew it was coming. You know what I found so lovely about it too is like, and it was such a mature moment for Holden, is when he comes to Naomi and he's like, no, I'm not doing it for anyone. I just can't be the man for this moment, for that. I just can't. I'm not that guy. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And you know, when I read it, you know, part of me goes, I'd like to think I would think of the bigger picture and do the right. And then I go, of course I couldn't.
Yeah.
Of course I couldn't.
Right.
Like, of course I couldn't.
Right.
Like when, you know, you see the love of your life's child, and you're gonna murder him for whatever the justification all the way around.
But also
can't.
in a split second.
Yeah, right. You just
because
can't.
you know, even if you know maybe he had time or whatever, he could come to a different. But the split second is like, you know, when you're in that emotional, reflexive place, you're not. Yeah, you're
just
not gonna
can't
make that choice.
You just can't. And I love that. Like once again, it's so different for.
Yeah.
Like when do you ever see that in the hero journey? You know.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a very modern and sort of even specifically American thing that heroes don't make that choice.
right.
Yeah.
That when the hero's confronted with evil, he kills it with a gun, and that's how he defeats evil.
Right.
So we're very trained not to expect those choices, and I think it's a little disorienting when it happens.
I think that's why everyone's so furious about it, because I'm sitting there like, yeah, of course. Can't kill her son. What's wrong with everyone?
I was not one of those audience members.
I was like, oh, thank God. You know, like, because I'm like, yeah, little more compassion, you know?
But I want to focus on this moment before, like when you actually pull the trigger and then he's holding and you have the thing, because it is a great example of actors making choices. You know, when you see this, it's a second on the screen and it's so powerful and it wraps up your whole journey, Naomi's whole journey, and then the culmination of, you know, when we first meet her wrestling with this guilt of leaving her son, and then Marco and her struggle with Marco, and then coming to this thing. And then you're having this talk with the director, and this, you know, one of the great things about The Expanse is how collaborative and a creative way it is. But you're making the choice. You're like, no, I think that she should be, you know, alone. And that would be another image. And Breck is saying this thing, but it ends up going to you and knowing that you need this, and you're rejecting it. And it's such a powerful, moving thing that comes with this kind of, collaborative, creative talk. And that's how it works in the
I was actually talking to Narain about this. I said, because I think sometimes with the creative process, there's a bit of a shying away from conflict, or at least the conversation of and the debate about what a beat should be or what a thing should look like. And sometimes that gets shut down, especially in this industry, by ego. And it's such a shame, like somebody just wielding their power to be like, I want it this way and this is how it's going to be. And what I love about this show is we've never shied away from that. And I'm like, the amount of emails or conversations or debates we've had as a team, as between actors, or things I've said to Narena that's gone, I don't think it should be this way. Here's why it should be this way. Well, I get that. Or, that has led to some of the best choices, some of the scenes, some of the beats being the best they will ever be, because we managed to drop ego, not always, but most of the time, drop ego and do that back and forth, that debate, to craft these moments. And that's a thing that I'm like so grateful for from this show, because that has taught me that is often beneficial to the process and needs to happen. And there's so many things in this season, in seasons before, that I'm like, I remember, I don't like to call it an argument, but debating with so-and-so about that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that was the right choice. And now it's gorgeous. Right. It's like the end section of season 5. Like when Breck told me he was going to shoot in the side of my helmet, that whole end section, I was like, are you serious? Because I was like, I don't think that's going to work. What is the side of my face going to do?
Yeah.
And watching it back, I messaged him and was like, that is one of the most moving sequences. Like, forget that I'm in it. It's gorgeous.
Just we don't compliment Breck on this show.
No, we
embargo. Yeah.
An unnamed director made a good choice.
He made an excellent choice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's why I fucking love this show, because we allow that process to happen, and we drop ego as best as we all can, because we're still human, and we, best idea wins. But
you always struck me as so conflict averse. I'm so shocked to hear this.
But at the end of that debate, or these conversations and these rehearsals that we do on Sunday, no matter what the outcome is of that debate, I always feel 100% more confident about the choice that's there, because of the talk and the thing. These stories, they have to be lived in. Their choices have to be lived in. If you're making these massive choice, like if you're making this choice that you're disarming the nuke, that you can end the whole thing right now. Right. You need to really do the work as an actor, because it's so easy for somebody not to believe it. If it's not coming from an authentic, honest place, then nobody's gonna believe it. And then that is when people are throwing remote controls or
and that's it's on the performance side, it's the thing I love most about this show is that there's just no false beats.
Yeah.
It's like I just believe it. I believe it when people make those decisions. And we've lived in these stories for so long that every once in a while, these spur of the moment things happen. I remember that shooting 6, and I was in the chair next to Tom. She was shooting the moment that she presses the button. And I was just, there as I wasn't in shot, was there eye line if she needed it. And we roll, and she presses the button, and she screams, which was not planned. And I go, holy fuck. I didn't even want to move, because I didn't want to break her. Like, I didn't want it to be distracting. And I started crying, like just hearing it. And it's just these those moments don't fucking happen on television. I mean, it was so moving. And I think it's just a testament to how invested, you are in Naomi, and how invested we all are in these characters after so many years. Mm-hmm. It's like so much love went into this.
Yeah.
To understand all these people.
I think for me, on a personal level, like if I sit back and think of the show and I try to boil it down to what the message is of the show, what I hope people seem to get, and this is me personally, and this, everybody's gonna have a different thing, but there really is, like, evil does not exist, good doesn't exist. There's always a little bit in the middle. There's always the gray area works it. But I think ultimately the spirit of humanity and the good in humanity, even if it's sometimes just edging it out, it seems to kind of come through at the end. And for me, like, the message of The Expanse is hope. I feel it, and particularly in this last episode, season 6. And it launches me in a place where I have so much gratitude for this show. I have such gratitude for you guys and what we've all been through together and what we've grown in this thing that we had to create. And then being a part of this universe, and to me it's so beautiful in these characters, and it's so honest, and so much work went into it. But when it ended, I felt that hope. I felt that hope that radiates throughout the show and throughout everything, and it made me feel that. And so what do you guys, if you had to boil it down, like what the show meant to you and what you would hope that it would communicate to others going
I
through it?
mean, I feel the same. I think it's such a beautiful display of differences. Like, humans are different. We all have different thoughts, feelings, political leanings. And I do think something about season 6 that strikes me is this, like, all the different pieces of the pies coming together, doing their little bit to create this last hopeful moment. It wasn't, although it's Holden making a decision, there's so many things that happen throughout that season for us to be able to get to that point of hope. And so, extending on what you've just said, because I feel exactly the same. There's also that thing of just knowing that, like, everyone does their part to get to that point. And it's not necessarily the good guys or the bad guys. It's like everyone. You think of that final scene around the table with Holden and Drummer and Avasarala, and these are all different people who've been around the solar system and back, and then we end with that point of hope. Like, we got to the right place in the end, and it still took all those people that we could say were good at one point, were bad at one point, done awful things at one point, done great things. And this is the message that it tells me about humanity. Is I agree with you. I think right and wrong is like a thing we created to try and justify our everyday, and I don't think it exists. I think it's actions, and it's about intuition and gut and following that unapologetically towards the right thing. And I think that's what the end of The Expanse is. It's like he made a choice that was put together by so many of these pieces that led to the hopeful moment, but it came from here. And I said that to you yesterday, like, it's rare to have a hero that follows his intuition, especially a masculine presenting one, so unapologetically. And that's actually what Holden is. He always follows his gut, and he doesn't care what everybody else thinks about it. So
Clearly.
so I think that's partly what makes him so infuriating. But I do understand that when no one understands the choices you're making, but it's the right thing. And I think we just get to this beautiful kind of middle ground of that, whatever that is, with everyone contributing to it. And so, I don't know if that makes sense, but kind of that's what I want people to take away from it.
You're actually articulating the theme that was deliberately written in, which is that the problem isn't solved by a lone hero making a choice for everyone. The problem is solved when thousands of people make just a slightly better choice than they would have normally made. And that's why we pepper in all season long. You have Anna talking about the relief efforts on the news. You have Monica filming people and getting them to tell their story about what the war is doing to them. You have Prax reaching out to Amos and saying, here's a thing that might help feed some people. And none of those are big hero moments. None of those people by themselves solve the problem, but all of it together leads up to that moment where it can kind of be better because everybody helped a little bit. Everybody just pushed the ball just a little bit further. That is what we were trying to do this season. So you're basically articulating exactly what the intention was.
It does that. And it's something I think we roll our eyes at a lot in real life, to be like, oh, if I do this, that's going to help.
Right.
It's hard to believe that that's possible. And I think this is illustrated in such a like non-fluffy kind of realistic kind of gritty way that it's possible, but it's not in the kind of, I think we always associate that line of thinking with like really kind of liberal schmiberal, like everybody contributes and it goes to the whole, and it's like this kind of, and I'm like, no, it's hard and it's dirty and people are dying and people are crying and losing loved ones, and some people are not. Some people are sending you these great things as how to create more food on Earth, and it's,
You might have to kill your kid.
some of the sacrifices bigger than other. It all contributes to this moment, and everybody played their part in it. And again, went towards what they felt was the right thing, and that is so hopeful for me.
Even the antagonist, Marco Naras, clearly the antagonist, clearly not a good person, not a nice person. The thing that he did is he forced the oppressors to recognize the plight of the oppressed. And he did it in all the wrong ways, and he caused a bunch of terrible things, but the end couldn't have happened without him.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite lines in the series is when Avasarala's talking to Drummer, and I can't remember what Avasarala says. You could probably say that, but Drummer says, a Marco was inevitable for the years of centuries of oppression that Earth has created for Belters, or something to that. And I was like, this is the thing. There's no linear right, wrong. You could say Marco is bad. I don't think he's a very nice person, but what he was doing was not necessarily from a bad place. It's born out of something. And I love that line so much, because I think there isn't a truer line in the series of what he is about, how he even come to be what he is. So again, it's just so expansive. It's fabulous, this exploration of humanity in that way.
So, this is we're talking about the last episode, and I think we've been together for 7 years now, and we've been doing this. And have you guys, we've had a lot of lasts. We had the last script. We had the last day on set. This is, one of our last press obligations. Have you guys processed it yet? And what has that been like?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I processed leaving production, and for whatever reason, that has not connected with the processing of the show being finished. But no, it hasn't hit me yet. Like I don't know when it will, but it hasn't.
Because I feel we've been doing this for so long now. We go to Toronto, we shoot this thing, and we've been glowing about what this creative process and how important it's been to us and our growth personally and our growth as a character. We go to Toronto, we do our thing, we come back, we do post-production, we do press, we go back to Toronto. So in my body, I feel like it's just part of the routine, the schedule, like we're going to go back, but consciously I haven't really processed it yet, and so it's I'm always very slow to process. Dominique is quick to process.
I was about to say, I think I've processed it.
She's already mourned and moved on.
I mean, I'm saying this, I felt like I was at like 9 funerals the last week of production. I was literally at everyone's rap blubbing. I couldn't even get through the speech that I'd done on my rap. Like, I found it so, like, just knowing that was ending, I think I definitely processed it then. But I do think I'll have a little further processing to do when the last episode is.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be like, okay, that's it.
That's
okay.
the last vestige of processing, because, we're still going to air, we're still going to talk about it. But once that last thing's over.
I think that'll be it for me, when I'll just have another final little cry.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't imagine for you, because this has been 7 years for us. This has been what, 18?
I move on quickly.
Oh, okay.
I'm already working on the next thing.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I love you guys. This has been one of the great experiences
Same.
of my career. Oh, I love you, brother.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, this has been one of the joys of my career, in my life, and this has been just such an honor to work with you guys, and that's all I got to say about that.
Likewise, man.
Yeah. All right. Okay, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.